Welcome everyone. Today we got a new patch here on HoN. We got version 4.9.0 and today I'm going to do a analysis on the patch notes. So we're going to go through the majority of the notes. We're not going to cover everything, so to speak, but we're going to go over everything pertaining to balance, and we'll skip over some of the more cosmetic sort of stuff in the patch notes. So we'll go ahead and start. Um, we have new login screen stuff. So this is all cosmetic and new avatar updates. So we're not going to go over that stuff. Community stuff, pricing for the store, cosmetic. Because again, we're going to skip all this stuff. We're going to start here with the hero design. So um, if you guys saw recently posted, there was a hero spotlight video for Adrenaline. Adrenaline is or has received a rework. So the main issue with Adrenaline was the hero was very frustrating to play against. It was based off of an energy mechanic where he would always be able to spam his abilities based on his percentage of mana pool. And there's a lot of text here in the rework as I'm going to kind of scroll through it, but we're not going to read everything exactly. I'm just going to kind of give you guys the gist of what the rework is. So basically, Adrenaline now has his spells having a actual mana cost with cooldowns. So he's going to be uh, gated with those limitations now, such as a normal hero. He is now going to be considered a melee hero, so he's swapped from having 450 range to 150. Due to becoming a melee hero, he has received some stat changes to his strength, uh, agility, and intelligence. So some stat adjustments here. Uh, and as I said before, he's going to have mana cost now with cooldowns on his spells. The big one is going to be his ultimate, Death's Halo. So what it does is you activate to spawn Death's Halo around Adrenaline for 5, 6, 7 seconds, surrounding the area with shard walls. All units caught within Death's Halo cannot escape its area, including teleportation or blink skills of any kind. So basically, what this means is Adrenaline now has an arena-like ultimate. He spawns his Death's Halo in an area, and everyone, including allies, gets trapped inside the ultimate. So he has a big lockdown ultimate for a set duration of time. This could be both harmful to allies and it can also be very strong against opponents. So it does act like a double-edged sword. So this will have to be used very, very wisely. But yeah, that's the gist of the rework. Again, there's too much text. I'm not gonna read through every single line here, but the main ones are he is now a melee hero. His spells are not gated through percentage of his mana pool. They have set mana costs, set cooldowns, so he's going to function a little bit differently now moving forward. Here we have Staff of the Master and Master's Legacy changes. So the first one, Blacksmith, Chaotic Flames, which is the ultimate. Staff of the Master effect changes to pre-existing. Mana cost change from 60% of your current mana to 33% of your max mana. Cooldown increase from 8 seconds to 30 seconds. So this is a nerf. And the thing about Blacksmith Staff of the Master was it was very, very strong. You could have any set mana value and have your ultimate on demand as a stun. So you could use your stun normally and then use your ultimate to essentially chain stun people. And it was kind of overpowered in the sense that it didn't really matter what your current mana pool was. So now this puts a limitation on having that extra available stun. And it's also going to be less frequent, being on a 30-second cooldown now versus 8 seconds. So as it says here in the next line, Blacksmith is receiving numerous buffs, so we'll have to wait till we get to the Blacksmith section. Once again, this is just the staff section, so he's going to get compensated in his basic abilities to compensate for this nerf here to the staff effect. Bramble, Chomp. So this is his third ability, the passive where when he auto attacks. Staff of the Master effect addition to pre-existing cooldown reduced to 3 seconds. So Uh, there wasn't really a big reason to pick up Staff on Bramble. It's a big gold investment for basically an effect that just made you tanky. But being tanky is only so good. Now with the extra on top of the extra damage, he has that more frequently, so he'll be more of a he'll be tanky, but he'll also be dealing more damage. So that's a nice little boost to the Staff of Bramble. Dampier, Consume. So this is again the ultimate. Staff of the Master effect, 2 pre-existing essence loss on death reduced from 4 to 3. So with Staff of the Master, I believe you get 6 essence charges. A big downside to Dampier, when you die, you lose essence charges. You have to regain them. So this is a quality of life change for the staff. You lose 1 less essence. I think this will be a little bit impactful, but not too bad, or too big of an impact rather. Electrician. So Electrician's getting a new staff effect. Is Electric Shield. Electric Shield is now a toggle. If Electrician's mana reaches 0, the damage aura effect from Electric Shield stays active. So that's a really cool effect. You don't have to activate it now. You can put it on a toggle, and also when your mana pool becomes empty, you still get the damage aura active. That's a really nice addition to the staff. We're gonna have one more effect here, being the cleansing shock, which is the ultimate that purges. Mana cost reduced to 0. This is a really nice addition. 0 mana cost. I believe if I check the cooldown of Electric Shock, I believe it's like around 10 seconds or maybe even less. Where's Electrician? 9 seconds. So he has a 9-second cooldown on the ultimate. Now it has a 0 mana cost with the Staff of the Master. And that's not all. Also spawns an ally area instance of Cleansing Shock when targeting an enemy, and an enemy instance of Cleansing Shock when targeting an ally. So basically he gets like a second effect. Pretty cool. Cleansing Shock is a really powerful ultimate. Powerful ultimate not only for the slow but for the purge aspect in the mid and late game stages. So very powerful. Effect radius increased to 700, so a bit more reliable. So cool staff effect addition to Electrician. And once upon a time, his current version of the ultimate where the purge chains, that used to actually be his staff. So he now once again has a staff of the master effect. So pretty cool stuff. All right, next, engineer. Energy field. Energy field can now be thrown up to 800 units away from engineer. Can still be double activated to cast at your current position instead. This is really cool. So essentially you don't technically need a portal key now to position yourself for an ultimate. Obviously, it costs a lot more. It's relatively double the price of a portal key, give or take a little bit of gold. But really cool effect nonetheless. Being able to have your energy field where you want it to be. Really nice for stuff like Flux combos. If we read further, energy field now procs its effects on affected enemy units immediately upon spawning. That is actually a really big part of the staff effect. So I believe, if I'm reading that correctly, you will perplex the enemy heroes that you catch with the energy field initially when you put it down, which is a really powerful effect. And not only that, but it also deals 1.5% of the enemy hero's max health per second as magic damage. So Engineer with a Staff of the Master will now be a very solid pickup against very tanky opponents with lots and lots of, or large HP pools. Very nice damage addition. So he's going to melt big tanky enemies. And I almost want to say if you have a Spell Sunder on top of that, that's going to be pretty nuts, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see. It is a lot of gold invested, but very cool effect. As an NG player myself, I'm pretty excited for the staff effect on NG. Next one is Pyromancer. Blazing Strike. So this is the ultimate. Staff of the Master effect change to pre-existing. Magic damage increased from 650, 875, 1150 to 750, 1000, 1250. So every level of the ultimate with the Staff of the Master getting some extra damage. Uh, Staff of the Master on Pyro, not really the best pickup in general. So it deals 50% of the damage to enemies within 600 radius. So that's more so the reason why you would pick up Staff. It kind of makes your ulti a mini AoE ulti, dealing 50%. And now it'll have a little bit more damage. Uh, the big one we'll look at is the 100 on the level 3, so 50% of that it'll deal around 600 magic damage to anyone in the area. That's a pretty neat ultimate if you can get them grouped up. But I think the staff effect on Pyro will still not be something that we'll really see too much. Uh, I would be surprised if I'm wrong about that, but we'll have to see. I don't see this as being something that we'll see too often, but a nice little buff to it nonetheless. Rhapsody, Protective Melody, so the ultimate. Staff of the Master effect changed to pre-existing. Rhapsody can now also attack and use abilities/items as usual during Protective Melody, in addition to allowing movement without interrupting its effects. Stuns and silences on Rhapsody will still interrupt Protected Melody and cancel it. So what this means is pretty much the same effect as Succubus with Staff of the Master. You can channel your ultimate, you can move around, you can attack, you can do stuff, but if you get stunned or silenced, as if you were not moving without a staff and just channeling the ultimate, it'll get canceled. So, not a super big deal, but cool effect. It's a nice little addition to the staff. Witch Slayer. Silver Bullet. Similar to Pyro, getting a damage boost. The big one with Witch Slayer, the reason why I think this Staff of the Master is much better than Pyro's, changes damage type to Superior Magic and increases damage done. So the Superior Magic, Witch Slayer, typically what you do is you lock down the enemy carry, you focus them, you burst them down. Staff on Witch Slayer, much better than Staff on Pyromancer, in my opinion, because of that Superior Magic effect, which is really cool. So a little bit extra damage, nothing like over the top, just on the level 375. So now moving on to some game mode stuff. This is for tournaments specifically. Captain's Pick is the mode that we use in tournaments. A lot of text here, but we're gonna go over it because it is kind of important. It's gonna affect the competitive scene. The lobby host can now manually designate a team to get the first ban before the game starts. So the Legion team will not always be the first team to ban. Number of rounds in the first banning phase increased from 2 to 3. Total number of hero bans in the first banning phase increased from 4 to 6. So each team gets one extra ban before any team gets to pick heroes. Why this is good is because adding 2 more bans to Captain's Pick will mean that we will see more diverse hero picks. Very good for the competitive scene. Removing 2 more heroes means more picks, so excited for that. Hero pick alternation method changed. Current method 1-1-1-1-1. Total of 6 picks, 3 per team. For the first hero pick phase, then 1-1-1-1. You guys get the gist. That's what the current version is. The new method, which is moving forward now, 1-2-2. Total of 5 hero picks. 3 for the team that has first ban, and 2 for the other team for the first hero pick phase. Then 2-2-1. Total of 5 picks. 3 for the team did not have first ban, and 2 for the other team for the second hero pick phase. So no longer do you only go 1 pick at a time. The first team will pick 1, and then the second team gets to retaliate with 2 picks, and then team number 1 gets to again retaliate with 2 picks. So it won't be 6 heroes picked before the second wave of bans. It'll be 5, with one team having 3 heroes and the other team having 2. And then it will go back to banning, and then it'll swap again. So you'll pick in 2-2-1. So what this does by picking 2 heroes at a time versus everyone alternating 1 hero pick at a time, what this does is it lets you pick up combos more easily. So I'll just give an example. Let's say you want to pick an aggressive dual lane. You can pick up an engineer and a Magmus at the same time, and your opponent doesn't get to react. And let's say you pick Magmus first, your opponent doesn't get to take Engie away from you. You can now pick combos. So that's a really cool thing. And this will kind of change the way uh, teams will draft and the ability to counter kind of lane compositions or hero pairings that really work well together that you want to get. So really cool. I'm excited for it. It's going to kind of change up competitive a bit. And yeah, new stuff, just good in general. Base time per hero pick. Okay, so we got a little bit more time per pick. Second banning phase now begins with the team that did not have first ban at the start of the game. So in the second wave of bans, the opposing team will get the chance to be the first banning. So it'll have a little bit more what's the word I'm looking for? It'll be a bit more even between the banning and the picking. It won't be like so one-sided. Like Legion always has the ability to pick first, and Hellborn always has the ability to counterpick. That's how it currently or how it was working before. Now it's going to be a little bit different. So that's pretty cool. General, towers, bonus attack damage dealt to heroes change from 20 to 20 plus 1 per game minute elapsed. So basically, towers are going to scale a little bit better into the game. The longer the game goes, the more damage towers are going to deal. That's cool. Towers get pretty weak over the course of the game, so this will give towers some relevance the longer that they hold their ground in the game. So kind of like that. That's cool. Heal output increase mechanic now functions properly with lifesteal. Examples of heal output increase mechanics: Sacrificial Stone, Rhapsody's new arcane hymn effects. So basically what this means is if you have a heal output increase mechanic, such as these two instances, and you have lifesteal, you'll lifesteal more. Little nifty change. I don't think it'll be too impactful, but it's worth mentioning. A little bit extra heal. Kongor. Kongor has a base 30% slow resistance. Enraged State now also grants Kongor plus 30% slow resistance. These changes only apply for Legion, Hellborn Kongors on the Force Calibur map. Bonus siege damage from the 2x Kongor kill state now scales with time. Grows linearly from 20 minutes to 45. Minimum of 20% bonus siege damage, maximum of 60% bonus siege damage. Okay, so a lot of text here. What this means is if you kill Kongor really early in the game, you're not going to immediately get that big 60% bonus siege damage. And that's good because it doesn't allow these like death ball strats that just form really early in the game and the other team can't really deal with it. Once they get the 2 Kongor kills, they go to push high ground. It's really hard to stop. So this kind of puts a damper on that, which is, I think, really good because death ball strats are pretty lame, I guess. So this will scale throughout the game now, and eventually you'll get that 60% throughout the rest of the game once you reach a certain time period. And by that point in the game, any team should be able to deal with it. So I think that's completely fine. The longer the game goes, the more likely it is to end. So the 60% will not matter as much at that stage of the game. Mid Wars, I'm not going to talk about Mid Wars. I'm just going to keep it to the competitive modes. So we're done with Staff of the Master. We're done with any technical game stuff. Now we're going to talk about hero balance. And then later, I believe it will be item balance. So first, hero balance in order here is Aluna, Emerald Lightning. Attack speed steel reduced from 50 to 20, 30, 40, 50. Attack speed steel with Emerald Red still remains unchanged. So, this is Aluna's Q spell, the stun. Aluna has been a very popular hero in competitive. And the main reason you pick up an Aluna is because she's a really strong laner. Why is she a really strong laner? Because you stun somebody, you steal all their attack speed, and they can't man up on you. It's really annoying. and this is going to put a big damper on that. So this is a really, really good change. This puts Aluna, this tones Aluna's attack speed steal down quite substantially in the early game. So this is a great change. And now Aluna will have more of a niche of being that global presence hero with the power throw, having the multiple power throws, being able to have that long range nuke, big nuke in the early stages of the game. So she'll still be very, very relevant, but this is a big tone down to her obnoxious laning phase. So very, very good change. Next one, Arachna, web shot. So this is her Q spell. Magic damage per second increased to 10, 20, 30, 40. So she gets a little bit of extra damage, 2, 4, 6, 8 per level scaling. This will make her laning phase a bit stronger. The mana cost is still pretty decent, so this should not get out of control by all means. She should be able to dominate her lane as is the purpose of the hero. Precision, this is her aura, no longer grants true strikes to allies. Okay, so that's interesting. So she doesn't have true strike anymore. This change should help Arachna be a slightly better lane bully without bringing back all the frustrating factors associated with the hero. Precision's aura effects also overloaded the ability with utility. This effect is now transferred to Flint Beastwood's Deadeye instead. Okay, so no longer does Arachna have True Strike and she doesn't grant it to allies. And now it's going to be Flint Beastwood who has the True Strike aura. Very, very interesting. So I'm assuming we will get to Flint Beastwood a little bit later, but a big change to Arachna. She no longer has the True Strike. Artillery, LRM, so the Q spell, no longer deals reduced damage to non-hero units. Artillery is now sighted for 1 second if LRM hits an enemy player control unit. So this is a very, very good change, and I think this could make Artillery much more viable in terms of not only being a good hero, but perhaps seeing some competitive play. The big drawback to Artillery. So when you think of Artillery, you think of what is Artillery's like purpose? He's probably supposed to be a carry hero, right? He deals this big output of damage from far away, similar to like how a Flint works. He sits far in the back, he deals damage, but he can't farm because his farming mechanic, the LRM, used to deal reduced damage to non-hero units, but now it's no longer going to do that. So he will have a much better farming mechanic. I love this change. This is great. Hopefully this will make him much more viable. Special ammunition, so this is the E spell. Bonus cast range on abilities reduced. So in compensation for his LRM getting stronger, he's getting less cast range on his abilities, but he's also getting the slow amped up. So the level 1 is weaker, but the level 2, 3, and 4 went from 15% to 16 and 19 and 22%. So he will slow much, much better. So this will help his kill potential. Artillery's premise for being a long-range hero has been one of the main causes of the frustration. Okay, so reduction on his range will reduce frustration. Understood. Artillery was buffed in certain areas while simultaneously reducing his max spell cast range value slightly until there is more time to properly adjust the hero design. Okay, so perhaps he might see some kind of change in the future, but overall, I think this is good. So he'll have less range, but the LRM will be much better. His passive will slow when he deals damage. So overall, much better. Lots and lots of buffs. Okay, Blacksmith. We got a lot of stuff to go through here. Flaming Hammer. Duration changed from 7.5 seconds to 5, 6, 7, 8 seconds. Magic number per second rescaled from 10, 20, 30, 40 to 20, 25, 30, 35. So what this means is he deals more damage per second in the early levels. Flaming Hammer is the W spell, by the way. He deals more damage in the early game, but it lasts less. So overall magic damage before factoring the negative magic armor from this ability changed from, so as you can see, the level 1 is much stronger. The level 2 is the same. The level 3 and 4 deal a bit less damage overall. But the debuff lasts longer at level 4, so it'll last for 8 seconds. So very, very long debuff. So overall, his early game will be a little bit better, but the overall damage will be slightly less. Frenzy now grants an additional 10% movement speed for self Now grants an additional 10, 15, 20, 25 attack speed for self. So when you frenzy yourself, he's going to get a lot more bonuses. Really, really cool. Oh boy, lots and lots of numbers here. I don't know if I really want to read all this. Uh, so looks like the chance to multicast reduced. So less chance to multicast level 1, more chance to multicast level 2, and more chance to multicast level 3 on level 3, and then level 4 multicast is unchanged. So what this means is the weaker multicasts have less chances, and the bigger multicasts have more chances overall. Overall long-term average multicast multiplier increased. For level 3 Cataclanes, average damage distribution. Okay. So yeah, the overall what it means is, it's a lot of text, but what it means is the bigger multicasts have more chances later on. This is pretty cool. Changes to Blacksmith should considerably bolster his early game performance, giving him more early game reliability, roaming power, and laning power, thus increasing his competitive viability. So with these changes, the hopes are that he will become more competitive, he will have a better early game, and he will be a better roamer. Additionally, these changes even open up other laning options. Changes to Cataclysm result in more normalized damage while keeping the changes mechanic on Blacksmith, and also reduce the likelihood of getting only one times cans at max level. Okay, so cool. So that's Blacksmith. A lot of text, a lot of stuff, but overall he's getting some buffs, and so those buffs are in correlation with the small nerfs to staff. So Blacksmith should be a better early game hero now. Dang, we are not even too far. All right, so Bramble. Give me one sec, guys. Bramble, Spore Breath. So this is his Q ability. Now heals Bramble for half the 0.5 times the magic damage dealt to an enemy hero. Overhealing will grant Bramble a shield state for 5 seconds, max shield health of 400. Shield states are shared between abilities. Okay, so the Q got a bit stronger. It's going to give him a shield. Chomp. This is his passive. Cooldown reduced from 12 blah 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 to 11,975. So 1 second reduction per second. Also, the staff we read earlier reduced this spell to 3 seconds. So an extra addition on the staff effect, 2 second reduction on his chomp. Now heals Bramble for 0.5 times the bonus magic damage dealt by this ability. Overhealing will grant Bramble a shield save for 5 seconds. Again, same thing as the Q, the 400 shield. So again, it's shared between the abilities. So when Bramble deals damage with Q and with E, he's going to get a shield. He's going to be really tanky. I feel like Bramble's going to be very, very annoying to play against. He's going to be very tanky, very hard to deal with, and he's going to have a shield. So this should make Bramble a lot stronger. These changes should allow Bramble to remain more durable in the front lines. Agreed. And allowing ensnaring shrubbery to be used on allies instead of herself more frequently. Okay, so that makes sense. If he's very tanky with his Q and E, then the W could be used more on allies for sure. Calamity. Dragon's Path. So this is the W spell, the dragons that float around her. Mana cost increased from 40 to 45, 50, 55, 60. Dragons are very, very strong. Calamity is probably considered one of the best laning heroes at the moment. So this is a tone down to her laning phase. You need to spend more mana now. So you'll need to accommodate your items to be able to continuously use that. So I think this was a warranted nerf. Calamity's pretty strong right now. Dampier. Consume. Upon death, essence count now goes to minimum of 1. If he has more than 1 essence count, Dampier still loses his essence if he only had 1 essence before death. So these are honestly just like quality of life things for Dampier. I think I talked about it with the staff thing. It's just quality of life. So he loses less charges essentially. Demented Shaman, Entangle, base movement speed slow, increase from 40 to 55%. Movement speed slow rescaled from 40, 60, 80, 100% to 55. So there's the base 55, 70, 85, 100%. This is the big one here. Stun duration rescaled to, so it used to not stun level 1. Now it has a stun of 0.3 seconds at level 1. The level 2 and the level 3 are all stronger, and then the level 4 is the same, so 1.2 seconds. So the early levels of Entangle are stronger in terms of the slow as well as the stun. It's mostly just a mini stun, but it cancels TPs and stuff now. Big thing. Level 1 was pretty weak, it didn't stun, so it was kind of not that good. Unbreakable. Mana cost reduced from 150 to, okay, so quality of life, mana cost reduction. These changes help diminish trauma a little bit more when played as a primary support. Okay, pretty straightforward. Mana cost reduction. Draconis. Okay, so a lot of people have been not too happy with Draconis lately. Uh, this change, so I'll read it. Draconic Defense. This is his W spell, which allows him to fly to towers and his volcano. Damage reduction for Draconis reduced from blah 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 to that. So he is now level 4, 60% down to 30%. So this is much weaker. This is Draconis specifically. So when he flies to something, he's not going to be as tanky. He's going to be half. He's going to be taking half the damage reduction he was taking. Now it's only 30%. Big difference here. Damage reduction for ally buildings increase. So to compensate, he is no longer as tanky, but he makes the buildings in the early levels, 30, 40, 50% versus 15, 30, 45. He makes the buildings take less damage and still the 60% at level 4. So this is more in line with what Draconis, I think, is supposed to do. He's supposed to be a tower defender. That's his niche as a hero. So the earlier levels will be stronger and the level 4 will remain the same. And simultaneously, it'll be easier to deal with him when he jumps in your face. He won't be as durable. He won't be having 60% damage reduction, now only the 30%. So that will be a significant change, I feel like. Drunken Master. Okay, this is a hero that I honestly don't play a whole lot since he's been reworked, but we'll go over it. Stagger, movement speed bonus increased. Um, so the level 1 is big difference. The level 2 is doubled, and then a little bit 10 movement speed. So nice quality of life change. He gets increased movement speed from stagger. Well, big section here on drink. Cooldown reduction of lunge and stagger increased from 0.25 seconds to 0.5 seconds per 0.25 seconds channeled. Max cooldown reduction for lunge and stagger increased from 2 seconds to 4 seconds if the skill was channeled for full duration. Mana cost reduced from 50 to 20. Big mana cost reduction there. But yeah, double duration on the cooldown reduction if the skill was channeled for full duration. So as long as you channel drink for the full time, you'll get reduced cooldown on lunge and stagger. That's pretty nice. Healing from natural expiration of a drunk charge increased from 5 health to 6 health. Okay, that's minor. Extra movement speed slow granted to lunge increased from 20 to 30%. Number buff there. 10% extra slow is it's percentage, so it is a pretty decent deal there. Extra movement speed granted to stagger increased from 30 to 50, so you get 20 more movement speed when you stagger when you use drink, I believe. Now grants 10 drunk charges upon obtaining a kill or assist on a real enemy hero. Cool. Rather than addressing Drunken Master's other weaknesses, Drunken Master's drink usage was made considerably more powerful so that he has access to lunge and stagger even earlier than before if he chooses to channel drink mid-combat. Okay, cool. So a lot of stuff. Drunken Master, I believe, is I'm just gonna check it, but I think he is pretty low. Okay, there you go. He's pretty low in the win percentage, so safe to say he needed some things to change. Empath. Illusory Veil. This is the wall, the W spell. Duration increased from 3 seconds to 3, 3.4, 3.8, 4.2. So the wall lasts longer. That's pretty cool. It'll block pathways and stuff. Magic damage per second reduced. So to compensate for longer wall, the damage was toned down. So this makes the wall, I believe, stronger overall. A lot of the time you don't get the full damage on the wall. Uh, the wall can get the full damage if they're sitting on it stunned. Um, Now obviously your Essence Link doesn't stun that long. I think it stuns like 2.5 max level or something. Where is Empath? I can never. Oh, the icon got changed. Cool. 2.5 seconds. Okay, so they're never gonna get fully. They're never gonna take the full wall damage from the stun. They're gonna have to be chain stunned. So this doesn't always get the max damage value. It's mostly to block off their pathing. So it's a nice change. This will be like a little mini buff to Empath because most of the time you're not getting the full damage from that anyway. Synergy. So this is the aura. Percentage-based health regen increased from, these are the numbers, to, so you got, this is doubled at every level. So the heal, so Empath's getting a big boost to her heal aura. And this is obviously global. So what this is incentivizing, I believe, is that you don't necessarily, before you used to want to max the wall because you got cooldown reduction on it. Um, so the cooldown reduction on wall was a big reason as to why you would want to max wall before maxing out the aura. Now you, with the extra duration on the wall, you have more of an incentive to put points in the aura because it'll be very, very good for your team to have this health regeneration aura, which is much, much stronger now. And you don't necessarily need all this extra time, but it is still very, very good. So you have the option now what you want to do. Before it was much, much better to max wall versus putting points in aura, but now you can do either, I think. Uh, okay, engineer is a really, really big one. I don't think I'm going to talk about everything, like I'm not going to read it all, but I'm going to tell you what the gist of everything is. So engineer base strength reduced from 22 to 20. So engineer in the previous patch he was played as a support and a mid, very, very strong hero. Uh, he got a strength reduction due to just being a little bit too tanky. The keg. So the keg, it is going to do less damage at levels 1 and 2 than previously, but now it will do more damage at levels 3 and 4. So the keg is getting a buff, a net buff, but a nerf in the early levels. So before he was dealing much, much more damage early game, and this was the big frustration factor of Engineer, which we're going to talk about once we get to the mines. That's the big reason as to his big damage output. But the turret, so the overall gist of this is that the max movement speed slow is changed from 35% to the slow is weaker but stronger later. Um, Push distance per bullet hit increased. Magic damage per bullet changed. So what this means is the turret is going to do more upfront damage, and so if I read this, it'll actually make more sense. In practical situations, heroes only get hit by maybe 6 to 12 bullets, not 50. So it's what you do is you use the turret to just kind of slow them, and they get caught in it initially. They take the initial upfront burst. You never really got the full turret damage from the turret, so this is an overall buff to turret in the sense that it's going to do more upfront damage. Turret was never really used for its damage, it was more used for its zoning properties. Furthermore, the damage has been shifted more towards the keg, as it is a skill shot that should yield high rewards, while Steam Turret should remain more focused as a utility spell. So it's going to do less damage overall, but more damage up front. In fact, Steam Turret's push effect is now much more formidable compared to before and has gained a big overall net buff in terms of utility. Okay, the big one here is Spider Mines. So Spider Mines, this is kind of like the core ability of Engineer, which was making him a really, really top tier hero and competitive. Spider Mines now automatically detonate upon their initial placement if there is at least one enemy unit within its blast radius, dealing 75% or 0.75 times magic damage when detonated in this manner. So you can no longer throw mines at people and insta detonate them for full damage. This was the big, I guess, frustrating part of Engineer, was he was dealing too much burst, so this is going to tone down his burst a lot. Spider mines can now be detonated manually once they've successfully been planted. Cooldown reduced. So due to this change happening, they're going to get a cooldown reduction. Uh, you, you can't have 6 placed at a time. You can only have 3, 3, 4, 5. No longer has a spider mind stacking limit mechanic. So this is all the reasons behind it, but I feel like this is too much text for me to read, so I'm not gonna go over all of this, but the gist is mines are gonna be more for planting. You have that small window early game where you have you can place 5 mines in one spot, and you can maybe get mine trap kills, but most of the damage will be on keg now versus mines. All right, Flint Beastwood. Hollow point shells. Bonus physical damage increased to 20, 40, 60, 80. So, Flint's getting a buff. Very, very annoying because he's going to keep mini stunning you and dealing lots of damage. I'm not particularly looking forward to this, but I think Flint definitely needing some kind of buff. Deadeye. This is his passive that adds more range. As we read in the Arachna change earlier, he is now getting the True Strike buff. So level 4 of the ability is going to give True Strike 100% of the time. At the early levels, he gets 25, 50, 75% True Strike. True Strike aura mechanic was taken away from Arachna, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so Flint now has True Strike. He's going to be pretty annoying from far away now, because he's going to be dealing more damage with his passive. He's got True Strike. Won't have the need for a Savage Mace anymore. See if Flint becomes a little bit more relevant in the meta. Gauntlet. Gauntlet Blast. Target scheme changed from physical to superior magic. I believe this means that he can Gauntlet Blast and deal damage now through magic immunity. Pretty cool. Geomancer. Earth's Grasp. This is the W spell, the AoE nuke. Magic damage per proc increased. So 5 damage per proc. Cool. Gives him a little buff. Nothing super crazy. Small number buff. Geostock. Radius increased. Level 1 is the same. Level 2 is 300. Radius larger. That's supposed to say 1800, not 180, I hope. That's a typo, unfortunately. 24 and 3000. So the big one now is this radius on Geostock has been substantially increased. This should make Geomancer a much, much better scouter going into the mid and late game stages. And now we will move on to Galatians. Intelligence gain per level increased. Small change there. Tundra Blast. Magic damage changed to this. So the level 2 is stronger, the level 3 is 10 damage stronger, and the level 4 is unchanged. So what this means is Glacius will have a damage spike increase when he hits level 3 or whenever he decides to get level 2 Tundra Blast, he will have a damage spike increase. So pretty cool. This is AoE. Ice Imprisonment. More cast range, 50 cast range more. Mana cost increased. So in order to compensate for this buff, it'll cost 10 more mana. Magic damage per second increased from 70 to 90. Okay, so it's going to yield more damage overall. So level 1, Ice Imprisonment deals 135 damage. Level 2, 180. So every level was increased. So Ice Imprisonment getting or a lot of buffs in terms of damage. The level 4 are getting 60 damage. So Glacius much, much stronger with the early game spells. At the cost of slightly increased mana consumption. So he's more powerful at the cost of mana. The hero has basic core fundamental mechanics and function. Now competitively, it is difficult to find reasons to pick him over other heroes. Chilling Presence changes in the previous patch to make it more competitively viable. So these changes, so what this means is these changes will make him more competitively viable. I agree. Grinnex. I believe this is the second or third nerf in a row to Grinnex's Roofstock. Long time ago, he never used to deal minus armor on his Roofstock auto attacks, and it just continues to keep getting small number value decreases. So once again, Grinnex I actually don't know where he is on the win rate chart. Win rate. Okay, there you go. He's a number 2. So every time I look at a chart, they're either at the top or the bottom. Okay, so that's going to be a nerf to Grinnex. Clanks. Bang. This is the Q spell. Enemies facing the flashbang now also receive a 15, 20, 25, 30% miss chance for the duration. Okay, so he's going to get like that Nighthound cloud effect. Anybody who he hits with the bang that's facing it, that gets slowed, is going to also miss if they try to turn around and man up and auto attack you. State duration reduced from 3 seconds to 1.5, so the slow is getting significantly reduced. I suppose you could argue that the slow was very frustrating to play against, especially in the early game, getting slowed for 3 seconds. I forget the exact numbers on the slow, but I think it's very, very high. Oh, maybe it does it say? 90% movement speed slow. So yeah, it's a large slow. You basically can't move. So I suppose that makes some sense. Uh, removing some of that frustration factor away from the slow. This minor change gives Clanks a little bit more relevance and niche as a hero pick. Cool. Lord Sulforas. So we have seen a lot of Lord Sulforas in competitive play. He has, for the most part, dominated, I think, as well. And a big part of that is his laning phase. He just gets off to a good start. So he's getting a nerf here to his life tap. Lifesteal reduced from these values to these values. So the level 4 is unchanged. The levels 1, 2, and 3 are all slightly weaker. This will less snowbally and slightly easier to deal with. Okay, so small nerf there to Lord Sulforas. Magebrain, mana combustion. This is the Q spell. When you auto attack, it's a passive. Base mana burn value increased from to 15, 20, 25, 30. So level 1, a huge buff. 2.5 times the amount of mana burned. And this is on top of the percentage value that Magebrain mana burns. He mana burns 3, 4, 5, 6% of the target's max mana. And deals a percentage of that in extra damage. So level 2, 20, 25, and 30. So most notably, this is his early game values. The level 4 is only 6 extra mana burn. It's not that much. The big ones are the early levels. So this is a small buff to make Magebrain more relevant during the laning phase. I agree. Magebrain, very weak hero right now. Hasn't seen much play. That will give him a little bit of a reason to be more relevant. Madman. So Madman, he received a lot of nerfs previously. I believe he got nerfs to 3 abilities, which were Stock, Barrel Roll, and the passive, the damage every time you deal damage. So here he's getting a mana cost reduction back to what it used to be. It's from 70 to 60. I think this is great because this is kind of the core ability of Madman. This is what gives him his laning phase. Allows him to be really, really evasive and just kind of do what he does, which is be annoying. Barrel roll, this is a number change here to back to what it used to be. So it gives him a bit more burst. The level 2, 5 damage, 10 damage, 15 damage. So just some small number buffs, but this will make him once again pretty solid in laning stages. Get him to that point where he becomes a carry again. I like it. I'm a big fan of Madman. Love the hero. So Monarch, crippling pollen, projectile speed increase from 1000 to 1400 units per second. Okay, so I don't know exactly what this feels like, but I will say Monarch's crippling pollen is one of the easier spells to disjoint in the game. So this is a pretty nice buff, I think. 400 units faster sounds like a lot because it's 1000 plus, add in 400 more. That should be a pretty good buff. Urban Pollen was simply way too slow. Yeah, okay. Monkey King. Elusive dash. This is the Q spell. The second dash will no longer automatically trigger when the timer expires naturally. So I'm not a super big Monkey King player myself, but what this means is if you dash on somebody, let's say you get stunned up, and you can't manually activate your dash to go the second time, There are times I would believe where you don't actually want to dash a certain direction, so this will prevent you. This could be looked at as either a nerf or a buff. It really depends on the situation you're in. Um, but you have to manually dash the second time now, I believe. So that's interesting. Vault. Projectile speed for the initial jump on vault before impacting the enemy increased from 1,000 to 1,200. Okay, so you jump on them. You jump on people faster. Projectile lifetime before Monkey King lands after vaulting off the enemy reduced from 0.6 seconds to 0.4 seconds. These changes should allow Monkey King to minimize unwanted interactions and allow him to land slightly faster to enable him to auto-attack foes sooner. Okay, so quality of life change for Monkey King. Gets him on top of his target faster. This says that he's gets him on top of them to auto-attack. Cool. Maraxis. Max charges increased from 1, 2, 3, 4 to 2, 3, 4, 5. Cooldown reduced. Okay, so you get more axes early game. Hence the name, more axes. And you can throw them out slightly faster. So the big thing here is, I guess I'll just read this, it'll explain it. More access is pretty dependent on doing well in his lane to maintain relevance throughout the game. Having even more access available to him should help him maintain his relevance in the early mid game. So Maraxis, he's already a really strong hero, but his biggest weakness is his laning phase. He doesn't have the greatest lane presence at the early levels. Um, and he is dependent, as this says, on him having a good time in getting to that portal key. He's not the best farming hero, so he does kind of scale off. This will help him early stages of the laning phase, get him to where he wants to be. So it's nice quality of life change. I don't necessarily think Maraxis needed a buff, but with that being said, we're already seeing him played in competitive. I think we'll continue to see him. Very, very solid hero. Nitro. Nitro. This is a very annoying hero. I don't play mid that much myself, but from what I hear, people were not too happy with Nitro, so hopefully this addresses that. Ballistic. Damage reduced from this value to 6, 12, 18, 24. So, and also mana cost increased by 5. So this will really tone down his annoyance in the laning phase, spamming Ballistic, being a really big lane bully, kind of like Arachna. Um, These are good. These are good number of changes. Blast up, mana cost increase. Okay, 10 mana increase on Blast up. Nitro is a bit too powerful in soloing mid. These changes should make laning against her more bearable. Cool. Oogie, Kindled Fury. Okay, very, very small nerf to Oogie. I think the big thing here to take away is not this specifically, but when we get to the items later, a big reason as to why Oogie is really strong in this meta is due to the items. So once we get to the items, we can perhaps think more about the Oogie. But this doesn't really look like much. So on paper, this is not a big nerf to Oogie at all. Pebbles, base intelligence reduced from 18 to 16. Stalagmites, cooldown. This is the stun. Increased from this to this. So 1 second extra increased cooldown. Really not a big nerf. 1 second is not the biggest deal. Chuck, cooldown increased from 10 to... Okay, so this is a bit more of a bigger deal than the Stalagmites one. But overall, once you get Chuck maxed out... So this is more of a laning phase nerf than a overall nerf. This just affects his laning phase. It's going to be 1 second more. So each spell on Pebbles combo will be 1 second less. Or 1 second more, excuse me, on the cooldown. Sorry, I said that wrong. Pebbles now regains a bit of his legacy laning phase weakness of having limited mana pool. So 2 less intelligence will do that. He can still cast spell Stalagmites and Chuck without boosting his mana pool in the laning phase, but his mana pool will be nearly empty if he does this. Chuck's cooldown has also been slightly increased to slightly reduce the frequency of harassing his lane opponent with just Chuck. That makes sense. It'll have much more cooldown early laning phase. Pebbles is pretty strong and competitive. I don't know if he's necessarily like OP or anything, but this will just tone down his early game a bit. Next is Prophet. Invigorate. So this is the W spell. The heal increased from these values to 80, 120, 140, 160. Cool. So Prophet, as a support hero, he's not super popular right now. Uh, this is what I believe is the core ability to what makes Prophet good, which is his heal, uh, and also the attack speed. You also get attack speed boost to both you and the hero you invigorate. So this is the core spell, I think, of the hero, and it's getting substantial, or not substantially buffed, but it's getting small number buffs, so it'll be much more relevant. This will help make Prophet more competitively viable. Shared Fate. This is another one. Cooldown reduction. So the level 1 getting a 30-second cooldown reduction. So from 2 minutes to 1.5, then 80, and then 70. So big cooldown reduction here on the ultimate. Prophet will have Shared Fate more frequently. Um, that's a really nice change. These changes should help Prophet more when played as a primary support hero. So there you go. He's gonna get some changes here to become a little bit more viable as a support. Puppet Master. Okay, so Puppet Master looks like he's getting quite a bit of buffs here overall. So Puppeteer's Hold, this is the Q spell. He's getting mana cost reductions across the board, so all levels. Typically, what you do on Puppet Master is you keep 1 point in Puppeteer's Hold, and I'll explain to you guys the reason for that. So if you read the spell, the disable duration goes up per level. The big reason why you would keep it level 1 before, or there's two reasons actually. So number one is it used to have a really high mana cost. Puppet Master has 3 spells that you're pretty much always using together on top of activating a Shroud, which costs mana. Puppet Master would run out of mana kind of quickly if you would max out Hold. But also the second reason why you don't really max out Hold is the way the pull mechanic works is the 2.5 seconds is typically long enough if they try to run away from it that they'll get pulled back to the center, and you don't need the full 4.4 seconds to get them to be pulled back. So what you would do is you would just put 1 point in this spell and you would value having stats over leveling that because uh, you would get more HP and whatnot from the stats. So the stats would be more valuable. But now that you actually consume less mana between all of your abilities, we also have mana cost reduction on Puppet Show. You can have more incentive to leveling Puppeteer's Hold. So this spell will be much better as a disable because the mana cost will be less. So I think what this means is we could see more support Puppet Master. I don't think that's necessarily his best role, but I think Puppet Master being more viable as a support would make sense here with less mana cost on the spell. So you could have him as a disabler versus a damage dealer. Next is Whiplash. This is his crit or his passive. Now also passively grants attack speed. So this will help him become a more threatening carry as the game progresses. Um, so 40 attack speed is Steam Boots gives 25, I believe. Wait, it gives 20. Sorry, I can't read. So that's 2 times Steam Boots. So it's quite a lot. So this should have a pretty big impact on Puppet's carry presence. Now, in conjunction with this, he's going to have the leash range of his ultimate, the Voodoo Puppet, reduced. So the opponent has a much easier time breaking that puppet, but it also deals less damage on the level 2 and level 3. So he's going to have less burst on his ultimate. So if you read here, it's just going to say that less burst and compensated for becoming more of a carry style hero with the attack speed. So pretty cool. I think Puppet Master, he's already a competitively viable hero. We're going to continue to see him. These are pretty nice buffs across the board to Puppet Master. Next is Pyromancer, starting attack damage increased. Okay, so that will make his laning presence better. Dragonfire, this is the stun, magic damage increased. Let's see, level 2, 3, and 4 all getting damage increases as well as cooldown reduction. Okay, cool. So 2 seconds less cooldown on the stun. So he'll have the stun more available, or available more frequently, 8 seconds. And he's going to also deal more burst damage in total now. So this will make Pyromancer a bit more relevant, more threatening, etc. Blazing Strike, magic damage increased. So the level 2 and level 3. So overall, Pyro's getting a better laning phase, more damage, more burst, and more frequent use of the burst. So this is a lot of buffs. Pyromancer has been underperforming ever since the game's power level has been readjusted to be more reasonable. His scaling towards late game and the availability of Dragonfire has been improved to help with this. So buffs across the board to Pyromancer. One sec, guys. Chi. Enlightenment. So this is, I believe, oh boy, I don't play Chi much. I think it's the Q spell. No, it's the passive. Okay, I got that one way wrong. Mana cost to reposition his Spirit Shredder reduced from 50 to 25. Superior magic damage per second dealt increased. Okay, so all levels are getting a buff of an enemy hero's extra auto attack damage per second. Placement cooldown while Spirit Shredded is active reduced from 4 seconds to 2 seconds. That's a big reduction on cooldown. The increased damage change should amplify Chi's niche against strong auto-attacking heroes without affecting his performance too much against heroes that have less items. The extra ease of repositioning the Spirit Shredder around will make Chi more flexible in Spirit Shredder usage and placement as well. So Chi, since he got he didn't really, I don't know if he necessarily got a rework, but he got changed a while back. He has really fallen off. I don't know if he's where he is on the win percentage, but he has not been super good. So he is needing of some buffs. So hopefully these are the right directions for him. I unfortunately am not an expert Chi player, so I can't really comment too much. But what I can say is that these are buffs across the board. So this should help out Chi quite a bit. I believe, is it Key? Maybe it's Key. Chi? Key? I don't know. I think it's Key. All right, Rampage. So ability 4, this is his ultimate, the Chains That Bind, and it's reworked. So once upon a time, Rampage used to have this ultimate that you would walk up to your opponent and you would basically put them in chains and you would pull them and they would take damage uh, based on how far you pull them. So he is no longer going to have his Greater Rhino ultimate, and he is now going to once again have the Chains That Bind. So here's the mana cost, the cooldown. Binds the target to Rampage for this duration and drags the target behind Rampage as he moves. The drag target will take this percentage of the distance they are dragged in physical damage. If Rampage and the drag target get separated by more than 600 units, the chains are broken. Rampage Greater Rhino lacked uniqueness and function when compared to other heroes. By giving Rampage one of his iconic abilities back, he can once again controllably reposition a foe against their will. Well, this ultimate is back in the game. I want to say, can you tablet? How much duration or how much distance do you move with tablet? You move 500 units. So I believe you could chain somebody and then tablet yourself in a direction, and they will take that damage immediately. Now, what you could also do is you could also portal key, but you cannot portal key more than 600 units. So you could tablet yourself forward or in a direction and then also portal key, and you would drag them twice. That would be pretty cool. So I think tablet and portal key are going to be pretty viable pickups now on a Rampage. What you can also do, thank you chat, is you can drag somebody. So you could PK onto them, drag them, and then charge somewhere. That's also so this is there's a lot of cool usages with this Chains That Bind, so that's going to be pretty interesting to see unfold. I'll just leave it at that. Rhapsody. Oh boy, we got a big wall of text here for Rhapsody. She's getting an attack range increase. She's going to be a 600 range hero, so that will increase her laning power. Disco Inferno. Enemies take 0.75 times damage while they are moving on the dance floor instead of taking no damage. So this is a buff. Before, if you were moving, you wouldn't take any damage if you were an enemy. Now you're going to take damage, so that's big. This is a big damage boost to Rhapsody. Allies heal for 1.25 times more while they are moving on the dance floor. So it fits with the theme of you're on a dance floor. What do? You dance, you move. So you move, you take more healing, or you get healed more. Pretty cool concept. I like that. Heal per second changed from this to this, so the heal value was compensated for that. Rhapsody now has the option of attaching Disco Inferno to herself by pressing the ability Hotkey for Arcane Hymn, Hotkey E. Okay, so before you could only put the dance floor down in a specific location if people moved or if you had to move. Oh well, the dance floor was where it was. Now you have the option being the key word because you can still put it down in one spot. You have the option of using it to follow wherever you go. Another big thing here about Rhapsody's Disco Inferno, it grants vision. So if somebody's hiding in the trees and you're like, are they here? Are they here? Are they here? You can attach it to yourself and move with it, and you can get vision of juke spots. Pretty cool usage there. I like that you can now move with the dance floor as an option. Arcane Hymn, so this is her aura. Now it's 5 levels with base level 1. At the base level, the ability will do nothing. It won't do anything with the active ability. Okay, okay. Radius increased from 500 to 900. Now also grants 30 at level 4, 30% increased healing output while affected by Arcane Hymn. Okay, so she now amplifies her healing. Elaboration of mechanics for Rhapsody. Since Arcane Hymn applies to Rhapsody all the time, Disco Inferno will heal for an increased amount from Arcane Hymn. So cool. So she buffs her Disco Inferno heal to everybody. Another example. Jeremiah is affected by Arcane Hymn, and he casts Inner Light to heal an ally that is not affected by Arcane Hymn. Inner Light still gets its healing amplified since the source of healing, Jeremiah, is affected by Arcane Hymn. An example where the healing output increase does not apply. Jeremiah is not affected by Arcane Hymn and casts Inner Light on another hero that is affected by Arcane Hymn. So basically, as long as the hero doing the healing is affected by Arcane Hymn from Rhapsody, the healing will get amplified. That's the key thing to take note here. You have to be affected by the aura yourself if you are the healing source. Rhapsody has been falling behind in the meta as other supports prove to be more versatile and reliable than her, so her abilities have been adjusted to compensate for that. Disco Inferno has a new option that properly rewards movement with Rhapsody and heroes in general should the player choose to use that option. Note that Arcane Hymn's aura radius will no longer match Protected Melody's radius. You will have to have more spatial awareness to know when Protected Melody will affect an ally. Cool, so Rhapsody getting lots of buffs, and the hope or the goal with that is that she will become more meta relevant. So I am a big Rhapsody fan myself. It's one of my favorite supports. I can't say that I am not too happy about that, so I am quite happy that Rhapsody will hopefully get to see more competitive play. Awesome. Next, Sapphire. Yes, one of my newer favorite heroes. We will talk about Sapphire. She has Unstable Shard, so this is the W spell. Shard duration reduced from 10 seconds to 7. Okay, so when you place the shard, it doesn't last as long anymore. It's going to only last for the 7 seconds. Cooldown reduced from 20 seconds to 17 seconds. So the availability of the shard will be more frequent. 3 seconds less cooldown on the shard. I like that, and the reason for that is um, the big thing with Sapphire is the shard is the main focus of the hero. The shard is what the hero does. The shard is how you kill people, and the shard is also how you farm. So Sapphire is typically played more as a carry hero, and she doesn't build like normal carry heroes. She does her farming with the shard. You put the shard down, you kill the camps, and then you wait for the shard to come back up when you want to kill more camps or kill heroes. So the cooldown reduction here is really big. It's only 3 seconds, but it is kind of a big deal because it will allow Sapphire to not only upkeep her farm quicker, but also her killing presence. So I love this change. And the 10 seconds down to 7, the shard duration. A lot of the time, you didn't really need the shard to be there for 10 seconds. You just needed it for like the first half or the first 3/4 of the duration. As if we look at the hero, you can only attack it um, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. So now you have a shorter window to attack it. So you can attack it 8 times still, but only lasts for 7 seconds. So you have to make sure to get those attacks in either with your only yourself or with allies. Crystallize. This is the ultimate. Cast action time reduced from 1 second to 0.8. So this is more of a quality of life thing than anything. A lot of the times, you'd go to cast the ultimate, people would either get the distance away from you or you'd get the ultimate interrupted. It's similar to, I always think of it as like a Soul Stealer ultimate charging up in your face. You can see it coming and you can react to it. You can either stun her, you can blink away. There's lots of ways to kind of play around it when you see it kind of happening. And this is more of a quality of life thing. It's just going to give players less time to react to it. And it's going to allow for teams to do more combos with the freeze and whatnot. So nice quality of life change. Not too much really to talk about there. Um, okay, we got a lot of text here for Shadowblade. Shadowblade is getting so base strength, agility, intelligence. So all 3 of his attributes are getting increased from 18 to 25, and all 3 of them are getting their growth reduced from 2.5 per level to 1.5. So he's going to have better starting stats, but he's going to gain stats over the course of the game, uh, less stat gain. Starting attack damage readjusted for those values, so he's going to have more base damage at the start. Gargantuan's Blast, this is the Q spell. Bonus armor increased, so he's getting a big number value increase on the armor. Bonus magic armor also increased. This one a little bit less, so more so the physical armor, less so the magic armor. Bonus magic armor now only lasts for 3.5 seconds after entering Gargantuan's form. So a lot of the frustrating part of dealing with Shadowblade was that he would press his Q, the Gargantuan's Blast, and he would get those bonuses for the full duration of the form until he changed form. Now you only get those bonuses for 3.5 seconds. So there's a lot more counterplay involved with Shadowblade. The bonus strength will still persist for the full duration. So he still gets to keep the strength, but he doesn't get to keep the armor value. So I like this change, as it will make dealing with the Gargantuan's Blast a lot easier. Feint Siphon, this is the W spell. Not only steals attack damage when used against enemy player controlled units. So you used to be able to use this on creeps and you would just farm in the jungle really, really fast, which was kind of broken. So they're removing that aspect to the ability and making it much more balanced. You can only use it on enemy player controlled units. I'm not going to read all this stuff, but it just kind of explains the changes quite a bit. So we'll skip over that stuff. Shell Shock, Rolling Thunder, this is the W spell. Now allows you to cancel the roll by activating the ability again without the need to have Staff of the Master. This is a really big change, by the way. This is really big. So a big downside to Shell Shock was that when you rolled, you had to really be sure that you weren't going to put not only yourself but allies in a really, really bad position because you couldn't stop it. So if the enemy that you were charging up onto or rolling onto got like into towers or they got into this really defensive position or you got too far away from your team, this would be really hinder you. So this is a pretty big change. This will make Shell Shock way more viable in my opinion. And here's a downside: allies can no longer enter Rolling Thunder if they are stunned or rooted. So to make it so that it's not super broken as like a bunker mechanic or whatever you want to call it, where people can hide and become invulnerable, they can't jump in if they're stunned or rooted. They can still enter if they are restrained. So there is a little bit of counterplay there. Scrap. Summon Vorax. Now gains 2 attack damage, 0.3 armor, and 20 max health per game minute elapsed when spawned. These changes should help Vorax maintain relevance throughout the game as time passes by. So I think Scrap is not the best hero. Some people think he's not too bad, but Vorax in late game just kind of sucks. And hopefully this change will make Vorax suck less. Hopefully it'll make it feel more like an ultimate. Because a lot of the time Scrap would just be this like pushing early game hero, and then if you kind of got out of that phase of the game, the ultimate was just very, very lackluster. Uh, Wild Soul, Bear Form. This is the ultimate. Now has a cooldown of 1 second. Once Wild Soul finishes morphing into Bear Form, reverting forms does not trigger the cooldown. Now has a mana cost of 20. Okay, so these changes are not intended to be nerfs, but rather to implement a mechanism to deter players from endlessly spamming the visual sound effects. So Wild Soul on paper doesn't really need a nerf. I don't think the hero is broken or anything, but this nerf apparently is to prevent spamming of the ultimate. And so I play the hero quite a lot. I don't think 20 mana is going to really matter too much. It's only when you go from range to melee, not when you go from melee back to ranged. The hero doesn't really use a whole lot of mana. It's just using the W pretty much when you want to kill and farm. So this shouldn't be too big of a deal. Witch Slayer, Graveyard. This is the Q spell. Magic damage change from these values to 100, 160, 210, 260. So what this means is the early game of Witch Slayer getting a damage increase. I like this a lot. I think when you think about Witch Slayer as a hero, the hero is great in the sense that he's a great disabler. He does damage with the ultimate. Um,
Wild Soul, one of the worst win rate heroes. Frostburn nerfs him, he. Big brain.
Thank you for the bits. Um, the biggest weakness of a Witch Slayer is his early laning stage. Just the 80 damage on level 1 doesn't really do enough. So I really like these buffs. This will make him much more relevant in the laning phase and allow him to get out of that really weak point in the game where he just kind of is lackluster. Because once you get the levels on Witch Slayer, he becomes a really strong hero. So I really like this change. I think this is good. This will make Witch Slayer a bit more competitively viable. And hopefully we'll see him played more. Silver Bullet, increased damage. Oh wow, the level 1 actually deals 650. Okay, and the level 2 750. It's a pretty big difference on the level 1. That's gonna make relatively easy kills at the early stages of the game. Cooldown changed, so much longer cooldown on the level 1. Slightly increased cooldown level 2 to compensate for the damage buffs, and then less cooldown on the level 3. So overall, I would say this is a buff. I would say this is really good. And this we'll read this. Witch Slayer is now more differentiated from Pyromancer with a much higher early game damage on Silver Bullet at the cost of an increased cooldown. These changes also increase Witch Slayer's power when played as a support hero to be more comparable to other supports, while still not taking away his niche option to solo the mid lane depending on the matchup for a quick portal key. Okay, so this allows him to have relevance as a potential solo laning core hero. I like it. I like Witch Slayer as a hero. I think he's great. And these buffs to Graveyard and Silver Bullet should definitely make him more viable as a choice. Zemplar. Okay, so this is a hero I don't particularly play a lot, but we'll go over it. Fractal Field now only triggers on illusions within a 900 radius of Zemplar. Wall of Mirrors, magic damage increased. Big damage number increased here on the Wall of Mirrors. Each subsequent dash from the same cast instance after the third dash, dealing 0.75 times damage after the previous dash. Schism. This is the ultimate for the first 5 seconds. The schism, however you pronounce that, illusions now only receive 66% of the damage they would normally receive, i.e. the same damage. Okay, so what this means is, the big reason why we don't see Zemplar a lot is because he's countered by Arcane Bomb, which it's going to tell you right here. So 5 seconds now, where when you spawn the schism illusions, they only take They will only receive 66% of the damage. So you cannot instantly kill all the illusions. So this will give Zemplar a window to do what he does, which is jump on you, do burst damage. This will make uh, Zemplar a much better hero in general. So Arcane Bomb won't be a direct counter to him. All right. So that is actually all the hero balance. We're finally done with the heroes. Uh, we've actually been going for quite a while here. But we are now finally on to the items. So we're going to start here with a new item, which is called Pegasus Boots. You start with post haste, and then you add in a 2,000 gold recipe, which makes for a 4,500 gold item. Has the same properties as post haste with the following changes. Allows the user to also teleport to real ally heroes. Wow, that's spicy. So basically, without reading any more of this, this is really cool, first of all. But second of all, this is like a late game or mid game style item where you invest this 2,000 extra gold to upgrade your big mobility item being post haste, and now you can just globally gank with people. This is super super cool. I love this addition to the game. Um, and then this is going to be all the specifics. Teleport target will not be disabled while the channel effect is happening. So when you post haste to like, let's say you have a wild soul on your team and you post haste to his boo boo, the boo boo will stop. When you have Pegasus boots, if you post haste to the unit now, the unit doesn't stop. This is really really cool. Teleport effect still cancels if the target hero dies before the channel ends. So the hero that you're porting to cannot die. You have to at least make sure they're alive when you port to land. Base movement speed increased to 125. Max out of combat movement speed reduced. Okay, so overall this is a really really cool addition to the game. This item is meant to be a luxury upgrade from post-haste, allowing her to teleport to another ally hero for global ganks and pushes without relying on the presence of a creep wave or an ally creep. This is awesome. I can't wait till we start seeing this in play. But awesome, awesome item. Really excited. Armor of the Mad Mage reworked. Okay, so let's look at this. New build up. Luminous Prism, Helm of the Victim, and a recipe. It costs 3,200 in total. Passive bonus is 8 armor, 5 health regen per second, and 18 intelligence. So this is mainly an intelligence item that gives armor and regen. Passively applies -3 magic armor to enemies within 900 radius. So this is a passive effect that reduces enemies' magic armor. So you pick this up on an intelligence hero that wants to do area magic damage, and it gives them more takiness with armor. Activate to grant yourself 20 armor that tapers off over 6 seconds. So basically what this does is you amp up your magic AoE damage, you get yourself tankier when you activate it, and it's more of a mid-game option. It used to be more of this used to cost more, I believe, and have a bigger effect. Now it's a cheaper option, so you can get it a bit earlier in the game. You can get use of its minus magic armor effect, and it has a cooldown of 45 seconds. So you can't spam it or anything, but you can do it every once in a while when you go for kills. It's a pretty cool change. I think this item will see more viability now. We weren't really seeing this item a whole lot, and I think more heroes will want to pick this up versus its old iteration. Armor the Mad Mage got its price point reduced, so that it is more viable mid-game. Amplifies magic damage for the team while being near the middle of the team fight. As a result, its benefits were slightly nerfed from before and also had its self-purge effect removed. Okay, so I think I touched on all that stuff. However, its new build-up makes it easier to obtain and grants some viable early armor and health regeneration sustain. Also no longer considered an item that uses an activation modifier. Cool. Cool stuff. Okay, next we have Gnomes Wisdom. These are support-based items. So Gnomes Wisdom is probably one of the strongest items was one of the strongest items in the game based on its price point. So safe to say this item needed a change. Magic armor granted by the aura reduced from 3 to 2. Armor granted by the aura reduced from 3 to 2. Max shield health reduced from 500 to 300. So these are the big things here. Armor reductions, as well as the shield health being reduced. Thank you, by the way, for the host, BKB. Shield duration reduced from 10 to 7 seconds. So you won't get the shield for as long, and you won't get as much of a shield value. Okay, we don't really care about adrenaline too much, but so less armor, less shield overall, and less duration. So a lot of nerfs across the board. This item specifically was one of the reasons
You
why
should have
Oogie was
seen
really
your
strong.
face. It went.
Wisdom are granting a little too much value for its price point and enabled deathball compositions a little too much. The changes should make it less of an all-around good item, while ensuring that it still gives a substantial increase to magic armor for the team. So now the item should do more of what it was supposed to be doing, which was giving a magic armor aura, not granting these like death ball-y, or not forming these death ball strats with like the Oogies, the parallaxes, the doctor repulsors, all that stuff that spams abilities and becomes kind of out of control, or if you pair this like with an icon of the goddess. So great nerfs across the board, and Gnome should be still a pretty good item, but it will be much, much more toned down from what it was before. Ophelia's Pact, cost reduced from 100 to 80, can now be purchased at the observatory, can now be placed in a consumable slot. Okay, really, really minor stuff here, but mostly quality of life stuff. Cheaper, you can buy it. You can buy it in the middle of the jungle now. I like these changes. As a support player myself, I would buy this item pretty much every game, and I would have to decide, do I want to buy it at the start of the game, or do I want to wait and get it slower and then get and reap the rewards later on. Now you kind of have the options of getting it a little bit later on in the game. You're not kind of forced to buying it right away, because you can go into the jungle, pick it up, then start placing your wards, stack your camps, do all the quest stuff, and you can put it in the consumable slot. So that's a nice quality of life change. I like it a lot, really cool, and not too much more to talk about it. State linger duration. Okay, Orb of Zamos Grave Locket. The leash breaks a little bit slower. Not too much there. Ring of the Teacher now requires a 50 gold recipe. Total cost increased. Can no longer be disassembled as a result. Total cost of Lex Salionis Abyssal Skull Gnomes Wisdom have also increased by 50 gold. So small nerf here to any item that takes Ring of the Teacher. This also allows you not to break it for free. Sure, not too sure if that was 100% necessary, but 50 gold, I'm not really going to complain over 50 gold. That's very negligible. Storm Spirit no longer has Scarab in its buildup. Mana regeneration bonus reduced to 125%. Now has Wind Whistle in its buildup instead. Now has a 100 gold recipe. So it got reduced in cost by 75 gold, and you cannot disassemble it. So overall, I would say overall this is a nerf to Storm Spirit, but you can get it faster, a little bit faster, not like much faster. But overall, it's a nerf. You get less mana regeneration. Um, Minor component change since Storm Spirit already granted increased movement speed. Wind Whistle is now a viable early game item for support heroes. Okay, that I agree with. So most of the time, or not all of the time, but some of the time, you're going to build Storm Spirit on a support. Now you have a reason to pick up a Wind Whistle. Sure, that I can agree with. But now you get less mana regen from it, and you can't break it anymore, which was pretty cool. That you used to be able to break that and like use the pieces to build into like, let's say, a sheepstick or something later on. Can't do that anymore. Lightning item changes. Thunderclaw, damage reduced by 5. Okay, that's very, very negligible. That's not a big deal. Thunderclaw is probably stronger than Cleaver right now, so I think this is completely fine. It's really, really minor. Hypercrown attack speed increased from 80 to 90. The attack speed for Hypercrown previously did not add up to the attack speed bonus granted by its parts at the minimum. This has been corrected. Okay, so apparently this was wrong all along, and now it's where it should be. Recipe cost increased to 1,000, so 200 gold increased. Okay, really, really strong item, so this could be warranted. Active ability can now only target ally heroes. So this is the big part here of the Hyper Crown nerf. Is before, what people would do is they would get the Hyper Crown, they would put the buff on a creep wave, and then the creep with the buff would kill a creep wave for free, which was pretty OP. And now you can't do that. So that's a good change. You can only put it on heroes, so you have to actually be there if you want to farm out and push waves or camps or whatever. Good change. This will nerf Hypercrown. It's by a little bit. It's still really, really strong. Farming items that actually have an upgrade should be expensive, as farming items are normally obtained for the purpose of farming and not to substantially increase your actual hero combat ability. Furthermore, the active ability was used to accelerate farm in a split push manner. Okay, so we already said all that. Good stuff. Lifesteal item changes. Okay, this is a big one. Okay, one sec, guys. Elder Parasite. So this is an item that we don't really see a whole lot of. Considered to be a pretty bad item, too many downsides. Buffs across the board. Now also passively grants 10 attack damage. Okay, so 10 attack damage. Passive attack speed bonus increased from 15 to 20. Okay, attack speed buff. Damage amplification for damage received for the active state reduced from 15 to 12%. Okay, so that's what's that, a 20% decrease in damage taken, 3% overall. Pretty nice. Attack speed bonus for the active state increased from 85 to 90. So all across the board, buffs across the board. This item will be much, much better. I think we will see this picked up more frequently. Elder Parasite has been changed to be slightly more appealing to pick up as a mid-game item that gives a burst of attack speed when required. I agree. I think this item will see a lot more play. Whispering Helm, plus 10 attack damage, bonus removed. Whispering Helm is still way too good at enabling carries to stack, as the plus 10 attack damage came out of nowhere, and Whispering Helm does not need to be any better at bolstering. The hero's combat ability has been removed from the item. Okay, so Whispering Helm, pretty much the staple for just about every carry that wants to sit in the jungle and take stacks. So, gonna get a damage nerf there. Pretty important, I think. Maybe we'll see more Abyssal Skulls variety versus we see too much Whispering Helm. I think I like it. Symbol of Rage, cooldown increase from 35 to 50 seconds. Okay, big cooldown increase here on the symbol. Attack damage bonus reduced from 20 to 10. This change is propagated from Whispering Helm. Okay, so nerfs across the board to symbol. Symbol is one of those items that you pick up late game to really hold your ground. And I think it's fine that this item has a big cooldown because I think it should be more in line with like Shrunken Head. It's a really, really powerful effect. And I don't think it should be like spammable by all means. So I think this is fine. The item is still very, very good, and it does what it does, which is provide you that big turn potential in the late game. Icebrand item line changes and Frostfield plate changes. So Icebrand, we're getting slow increased by 5%. That's pretty good. Icebrand's a pretty bad item for what it does. A lot of people compare this to Toxin Claws, being a very, very inexpensive item that also gives us a pretty good slow. So Icebrand getting a slow increase, that'll make Icebrand a bit better. Frostburn or Frozen Light. Okay, so again, more movement speed slow. Same thing with Dawnbringer, movement speed slow. So all of the versions here that have Icebrand in them getting extra slow. Pretty cool. Frostwolf's Skull no longer passively applies an attack speed slow to affected enemy units. Active mechanics reworked. Activating it once will spawn 2 scouting frost wolves that seek out the nearest enemy heroes within radius, sighting and revealing them and applying a 20% movement speed slow for 3 seconds. Radius 5,000, mana cost, cooldown 50 seconds. Wow. Okay, so Frostwolf Soul is getting a big change. So by removing the attack speed slow off the item, it's still going to slow when you attack people. Now you can activate it and it has like a scouting mechanic. This is really, really cool. And it has a radius of 5,000. So it's not spammable. It has a 50-second cooldown. This is really, really cool. I like this. I think we're going to see more Frostwolf Skull versus Frostfield Plate pickups now. Before it was like Frostwolf Skull is not really that good. Frostfield Plate kind of does what it does. Now they're a bit more differentiated, so I like this quite a lot. This will give you a reason to pick up Frostal Skull, because now you get that scouting through Fog of War and whatnot. You can scope out what's in the area if you want to do split pushing, if you want to do some ganking. Maybe your teammates are Veiled Rotted with PKs. You're the guy who's going to scout them out for them. I like it. It's cool. After activating it this way, can activate again within the next 50 seconds to send dire Frostwolves to impact nearby enemy player controlled units, dealing 100. Okay, so this is minor. This will just seek out units you control. So maybe you're against an Ophelia or something like that. They have player controlled units. It'll slow those things. That's more of like a little extra added onto the item. I don't think that'll be too substantial. Okay. Frosted Skull is now more differentiated from Frosted Blade with a different active effect, as well as having a heavier focus on movement speed slow. Its scouting utility is a unique effect in the item pool while still granting the same in-combat usage without directly tying it to the scouting part of the item. Shout out and thanks to ISO. Awesome. So Frosted Skull will be much better now. Frostfield Plate. Strength bonus reduced. Agility bonus reduced. So getting some stats reduction here. Frostfield Plate, very strong item. So getting some stats taken off the item here. Armor reduced from 15 to 14. I think that's to match the pieces that it builds into, which is the plate mail, I believe it's called, the plus 14 armor thing. Attack speed, slow, aura magnitude reduced from 20% to 10%. So this is the aura, the passive effect. Getting a percentage reduction. Active state movement speed slow reduced from 50% to 20%. Active state now also applies a 30% attack speed slow, stacking additively with the aura's attack speed slow. So they're going to get slowed more when you activate the effect. So it's going to be less focused on the passive bonuses and more focused on the activate. Passive play is
You should have seen your face. It went.
Thank you for the donation.
Keep crying, peasants. Dutch nailed you hard. Hope you like the changes I made in 2 minutes while I was in toilet pooping. Looking forward to see you clowns get wrecked by new Flint, Oogie with Grimoire and some other heroes. If you have any complaints, ick.
Thank you for the donation again. Alright, so where was I? Frostfield Plate is now much more focused on a heavy attack speed slow on its active ability. Okay, so as I stated, it's more focused now on the activate versus the passive stuff. At the cost of having less effective passive bonuses. Yep. As a result, Frostfield Plate usage and purpose is now much more differentiated for Frostfield Skull. Awesome. So before those items were overlapping way too much, Frostfield Plate was way better. We never saw Frostfield Skull as a result. Now we will see them doing different stuff. Lightbrand item line changes. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. Now also grant 6% non-damage magic lifesteal. Okay. Okay. This isn't really too interesting stuff. Dawnbringer now also grants 15% non-dot magic damage lifesteal. 5% against non-hero units. Searing affects magic damage per second per charge increase from 16 to 18. Okay, so some buffs. Grimoire of Power. So this is a big one. Recipe cost reduced by 100 gold. Total cost 100 gold less. Magic damage lifesteal no longer applies to magic dot effects. Non-dot magic damage lifesteal increased from 15% to 20%. Therefore, Ravenor doesn't get a penalty. Active effect completely reworked. Activate to instantly dispel debuffs and stuns on self, and grant 100% debuff and stun duration reduction for the next 1 second. Note that this will not protect you from continuous area effects such as Chronos, Chronofield, or blue border states like Succubus Hold. So, this could be considered kind of like a nullstone effect, I suppose, where you get to, not, I mean, in the sense that you can like block something, you can get targeted by something and then just remove it, which is a really cool effect, but it will only work for 1 second. So, really cool. You're going to have to use this, like, you're going to have to time this really well when you want to use it, because it does have a 70-second cooldown, a very large cooldown. And then when you activate it, you get debuff and stun duration for that little small window. 1 second is very fast, though. So this item is very, very expensive. I don't think this is going to be like broken or anything. I think the effect sounds really, really cool, but I think this is going to be kind of niche when you want to pick this item up. I could be wrong. We'll have to wait and see, but that's what I'm thinking, at least at the moment. I don't think this will be like super broken or anything. Um, but it's a really cool effect. This is an item we haven't seen for a really, really long time. The old Grimoire of Power, the really, really old one where it used to buff your farming, was like really, really cool. Used to see that all the time. The last version of Grimoire was not very good, as all this stuff will kind of entail. Not gonna go through all this stuff, just a lot of text. Um, Word changes. Word of revelation. Word radius increased. Reveal radius increased, excuse me, from 800 to 850. Clear vision initial reveal radius has been increased to match that half the value. So the reveal on wards was kind of too small, I think. I think it was really hard to spot wards that were already in your ward range, rev ward range. So this will help with that. Ward of sight vision radius increased by 100. This change was partially done to adjust the issue with vision regarding the bottom rune. Okay, so wards give 100 more vision. Not a big deal. Other item changes. Arcane Bomb. Damage mechanic changed from direct health removal to true damage. This should not make a difference in most circumstances and primarily makes a difference against Zemplar. So we already talked about Zemplar. This is another change with Arcane Bomb to kind of not make Zemplar really, really bad. Barbed Armor. Return damage is now based on pre-mitigation damage rather than post-mitigation damage. Return damage reduced from 80 to 65% of pre-mitigation damage received. So this should make Barbed Armor better, I believe, because it's pre-mitigation damage. But it is at the cost of less percentage, so maybe I really we'll have to wait and see how this really affects Barbed Armor. But Barbed Armor has always been a really cheap or inexpensive item, and it gives a lot of value for its price point. So if Barbed Armor ends up being a lot weaker, I think I'm okay with that because the item kind of does a lot for its price point. Barrier Rattle component change in build up. Major Totem is now replaced with a Trinket of Restoration. SP cost increased to this value, 1250. Overall cost remains the same. As a result, the component changes no longer grants +5 to all attributes. Passive bonus health regeneration per second increased to 12. So Barrier Rattle won't give stats anymore. Basically, it's going to be more focused now on the what it does, which is the magic armor and the regen. Not going to give stats, so it's not going to help heroes with becoming more tanky and whatnot. Geometer's Bane, recipe cost increased by 100 gold, total cost increased. Cooldown increased from 50 to 60. So Geometer's Bane, it's a pretty core item on most carries. We see it pretty much every game, and there's good reason for that. It's a very efficient item. It does a lot of things, and this will just make it a little bit weaker in the sense that you can't use it as often, and it costs 100 more gold. I think that's completely fine. The item is very, very good. Health Potion, Mana Potion, Bottle, Rejuvenation Potion. Damage from sources that are non-boss, non-player controlled. Neutral creeps, when not owned by a player, no longer dispel these effects while they are active. Wow. Okay, so what does this mean? This means you can play Legionnaire and you can health pot while jungling. Yep, that's what that means. I don't know if this is broken or not, but this will increase efficiency when jungling for sure because the creeps will no longer remove pots. That's pretty freaking cool. We'll have to see if this becomes an issue or not. I don't know if that's going to be broken uh or what, but damn, I want to play some Legionnaire and see how that works. Um, Trying to think of any other heroes that this really impacts like a whole lot. Maybe you want to health pot your boo boo. I'm trying to think what else really tanks damage a lot. Maybe if you want to like Lord Sulforas jungle, I think that could still work actually, but can health pot while tanking triple stacks on Lord Sulforas. I'm sure there's some other ones I'm not thinking of, but you guys get the point. I think that that's a pretty impactful change. Culdra's Sheep Stick. If dispelled, the current duration of Sheep State is reduced by 80%, and the Sheep State becomes unpurgeable for the remainder of its duration. So, what you want to do is you want to buy a Sand Scepter when you're facing a Sheep Stick, something similar, and you want to just remove it right away. And now it doesn't fully remove the sheep, it'll get reduced by 80% duration, the current duration by 80%. So the earlier you use it in the sheep, the more value you get out of the purge or the dispel effect. The later you use it, it's not going to have as much impact because it'll already have done most of its job. But the big thing here is that they won't get instantly dispelled. They're going to still be sheep for a little bit. So it's a nerf to sheep for sure. Sheep is probably one of the best items in the game, and it's pretty hard to argue that a sheep is ever bad. There are, I guess, some situations where it's not the best thing, but sheep is always good. So I guess this is okay. Spell shards, recipe cost reduced to 675 gold, therefore the total cost reduced here. So this is good, and I'll tell you why. A lot of the times, what you do is you get spell shards level 1, and you keep it level 1 until you get your next kind of core item that's really important. You pick up spell shards to help you farm, it gives you mana regen, it helps you kill creep waves faster. A lot of the times you wouldn't upgrade to level 2 and 3 right away, and the cost reduction of the recipe, and it's only 50 gold, but over the course of 2 it'll be 150. This will give you a little bit more incentive to want to level up your spell shards. It's a nice little boost here to spell shards, so I like this. We could potentially see the leveling of shards uh, earlier on rather than later now. Matchmaking, map modes, bug fixes. I don't think we're really going to talk about any of this stuff. So, Gnomes Wisdom, fixed rare. Okay. That's gonna do it, I guess, for the patch notes. That was wow. That was almost 2 hours. Wow, I didn't realize it was that long. But that is my patch analysis for version 4.9.0. I hope you guys liked it. It was pretty long, so if you stuck around through the whole thing, thanks for hanging out and watching.